Jim Carrey is the Riddler. Oh man, okay, so this is a character that I've always had mixed feelings about, because on one hand, I think he can be a bit much in certain scenes, but there is an undeniable menace in those eyes. I mean, his eyes just tell you that if you piss this guy off, yeah, he's funny and goofy, but if you piss him off, he could really hurt you. And I honestly do understand why they cast him for that reason, because he just does the crazy eyes so good. But I don't think that we got to see enough of that menacing side of him, and I would have liked to see a bit more of that, maybe in another movie. So, what if we did? What if, since the Riddler was actually still alive by the end of Batman Forever, he actually had a part to play in the sequel? Simply put, what if the Riddler was in Batman and Robin? So somehow, Jim Carrey decides to make a return to the Riddler character in Batman and Robin. So now, how does this change the movie? Well, I mean, at first I didn't think that this scenario would change the movie that much. I mean, I figured it would just be yet another cog in the machine of a never-ending cascade of villains, and we already have plenty of villains, let's be honest. But, then I remembered something very, very important. The Riddler knows who Batman is, and he knows who Robin is. So the Riddler really does hold all the cards. So now, admittedly, the reason he didn't tell anybody was because he didn't remember. He got brain damage from when Batman destroyed the box. But what if those memories didn't stay gone? What if they just came flooding back to him one day? What would happen? Well, I mean, I'm sure he would tell everybody who would listen about how Bruce Wayne is Batman, but Dr. Burton and the rest of the Arkham staff probably wouldn't believe him. I mean, think about it. He's fucking crazy, remember? He's in Arkham for a reason, so I honestly don't think anybody would actually believe that. So now Riddler would actually start to go even crazier because he knows who Batman and Robin are, but nobody buys it. Nobody's believing him. And it's truly maddening for him to just sit around knowing that he's right and not being able to do a thing about it. That is, of course, until Poison Ivy shows up to break Mr. Freeze out of Arkham Asylum. So Ivy meets the Riddler, and he makes a creepily flirtatious comment towards her, which she of course embraces. He then says that he could find even better things to say about her if she helped him get out of here. And Ivy just says, well now riddle me this. Why should I do that? So then he just smiles like a crazy person and says, well, I'm glad you asked. You see, I know the answer to the greatest riddle of all. Who is Batman? So then Ivy's smile just drops, and she says that he must be crazy. I mean, he is in this asylum for a reason. There's no way he could possibly know who he is. So then the Riddler just laughs soundlessly and says that he has evidence, but he can't show her from in here. So then Ivy returns her smile after a moment of thought before saying to give her a minute to think about it. She then goes off to break out Mr. Freeze just as she did. So then when Bane arrives with Mr. Freeze's armor, Ivy tells Bane that they have another friend who will be joining them, and asks him to go help him find his way, so to speak. So then Bane returns to Riddler's cell to free Riddler, who's comically terrified of Bane and has to be carried kicking and screaming to Freeze's cell. Anyways, the police would then still show up, and they manage to break out thanks to Mr. Freeze. So we then cut to the four of them setting up shop at Ivy's hideout, and Mr. Freeze is basically, whispering over to Ivy about whether breaking the Riddler out was a bad idea because he's a little bit on the crazy side. Because yeah, he recovered his memories of who Batman is, but that machine still did a lot of damage to his already not so great brain, so he's not really all there. He's more than a little bit messed up. And so now Ivy would probably turn that Mr. Freeze and make some sort of comment about, not jealous of the competition, are you? Which he has no answer to, because remember, he doesn't like her that way. Awkward. Either way, Ivy would then use her pheromone dust to get a proper response out of the Riddler. So he constructs a new version of the box and basically explains that he used it to read minds and find out who Batman was. He found out it was Bruce Wayne. And so now Ivy and Freeze are pretty shocked about that because they did not see that one coming. But then Ivy would just shrug and make a comment on how, Well, that explains Batman's handsome jawline. I don't know what I'm talking about. Either way, Riddler would then recommend that they take the fight directly to the Bat family. They won't know that they're coming, and it would be the easiest way to just kill them, honestly. And Ivy and Freeze are in agreement that killing them should be the top priority. Because, yeah, they got their weird freezing the planet and then inhabiting it with killer plants plan thing that doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't matter. Either way, Batman and Robin are in the middle of their weird plan. So now we're skipping the whole thing where Ivy puts up a Robin signal, and instead they're just taking the fight directly to Wayne Manor. Now remember that Bruce and Dick, they were still fighting by this point. They didn't have the time to settle their differences. And so when they're caught off guard like this, they fight about how to handle the situation, which means they're not working together very well. They're constantly fighting each other while also trying to help, and that's not exactly, well, helping anything. In fact, they even end up allowing Barbara to get captured. So, yeah, not such a great team this time. And yeah, I mean, she does put up a great fight. She can definitely handle herself, but Bane would, of course, overpower and subdue her. And then Ivy says, well, I could use a woman's touch around the house, and Bane carries her away. So now we cut to the Riddler making his way around the manor, comedically smashing every valued possession of the Wayne family, before he sees a room with a cracked door. And there, he sees Alfred recovering from McGregor syndrome. Riddler would then smile very, very creepily. And then he just says, "Remember me, old man?" He then sits at Alfred's bedside and asks him a riddle. "Did you hear the one about the Italian chef with a terminal illness? He passed away." So then Alfred groggily just starts laughing. And he tells the Riddler that he's forgotten to ask the true most important riddle of all. Why has nobody ever been able to kill the Batman? Because Batman endures in all of us. Batman is an effort to master the chaos that sweeps our world. Batman will endure you because he must endure. Even broken wings mend in time, and no amount of riddles will be able to save you when Batman inevitably returns in one way or another. So then Riddler just smiles widely and says, "It's been nice playing with you. But I'm afraid we all have our little dates, and your date with the devil has come at last." Riddler then maliciously kills Alfred. So now Mr. Freeze traps Bruce and Dick to the wall before freezing the entire mansion, with everyone still inside, and leaves them all to die. However, luckily Bruce is a veteran by this point, and he kept some gadgets on him. So he melts himself and Dick free, and he searches for Alfred as the structural integrity of the mansion begins to fall. It's then that he finds Alfred's body, and next to his body he finds a note that says, "Will Batman truly endure?" And Bruce Wayne is pissed off. More pissed off than he's been in a very long time. But in the end, he manages to successfully carry Alfred's body to the Batcave as Wayne Manor collapses on top of them. So then Bruce and Dick hold a brief funeral for Alfred, and lots of tears are shed. Bruce, he can't even find the words to say. He experiences multiple flashbacks to Alfred raising him. And after a long fit of internal anguish, he promptly turns around and starts wrecking the Batsuit displays. I mean, think about it. Alfred was his last physical connection to his parents, Alfred and the mansion. And guess what? They were both just taken from him, out of nowhere. Bruce Wayne's normally the one on top of everything. He's normally the one that you would definitely not expect to have anger management issues. But that all goes out the window now. He's never been angrier than he's been right now. He then goes to put on his scariest Batman suit. Enough with the flashy Batman suits. He finally realizes in that moment that he's gotten complacent. He's gotten silly. And he wants to go back to the Batman of old. And so he unearths one of the Michael Keaton Batman suits, along with a shitload of equipment, hell-bent on getting revenge on the Riddler, only to find his path blocked by a tear-stricken Robin. Dick then says, wasn't it Bruce in the last movie who told him that revenge won't make the pain go away, that it'll make it worse? That you do make the kill, but your pain doesn't die. It only grows. So then you run off into the night to find another face, and then another, and another, until one day you wake up and you realize that revenge has become your entire life. And so Bruce is at a loss for words right now, and Dick then says that Alfred wouldn't want him to forget any of that, any more than Bruce would have wanted Dick to forget that. And Bruce, he gets pissed off and basically says, "What would you have me do, Dick?" And he says, "You didn't even know Alfred. I did. He was there for me when my parents died. He was my father for most of my life. You didn't even know him. What could you possibly know?" And now I know this does seem out of character for him, but this is a very broken Bruce Wayne. This is a very grief-stricken Bruce Wayne, and even years of training to compose himself can't match what he's feeling right now. And so he's taken all of his aggression out on Dick. And so now Dick stands up to Bruce, and he says Alfred was like a father to him too. Who was there for him when his parents died, when his brother died? Alfred was there for him. Who was there to inspire him to become Robin? Alfred was. Who was quick to make him feel like the world hadn't ended? It was Alfred that made Dick feel like a member of the family from the very beginning. He then tells Bruce, "How dare you? How dare you say that I didn't know him, that I didn't care about him?" Sure, I mean, yeah, he didn't know him as well as Bruce, but he knew him enough to know that he wouldn't want Batman to become a symbol of revenge. Dick says that regardless of their differences, there is an innocent girl out there surely waiting to be killed. Alfred's flesh and blood needs their help. Gotham needs their help. Hell, the world needs their help. And who are they to deny them said help? Dick says, "I don't know about you, Bruce, but at the end of the day, I know who Robin is. Do you even know who Batman is anymore?" And then he leaves. So then Robin arrives to save Barbara, and he is feeling stronger than he's ever felt before. More intelligent. He's doing the best he's ever done as Robin in his entire career. He actually manages to outwit both the Riddler and Poison Ivy. Ivy's trying to flirt with him. He's having none of it. He doesn't fall for that trap. And he actually almost rescues Barbara successfully, but he does end up ultimately being captured by the Riddler because, yeah, he's doing better than he's ever done, but he does not nearly have as much experience as Batman, and I do think that would still come back to bite him in the ass a little bit. And so now all hope does seem lost until Batman arrives, decked out in his darkest outfit, and he takes the fight directly to Ivy and Riddler. He defeats Ivy fairly easily, and then he nearly kills the Riddler. And the Riddler goads him. "Come on, don't you want to kill me like I killed your dear old butler?" And Batman, he has a batarang right up to the Riddler's throat. And Batman and Barbara are just holding their breath, watching from afar in anticipation. It's like a car crash. They can't look away. But then, thankfully, Batman sheaths his batarang and says that Alfred may have been like his father. And for that, he might want to kill the Riddler. But it'll be a cold day in hell before he lets someone like the Riddler forever corrupt what Batman stands for. And then he just knocks him unconscious instead of killing him. Batman then turns to Robin and Barbara. He puts his hand on Robin's shoulder and he tells him he's very, very proud of the man that he's become. He's become exactly what Gotham City needs, and says that he trusts Robin, finally. And he brings their feud to a satisfying conclusion. Because yeah, Robin was whiny up until this point in the movie. It was Alfred's death that finally helped him mature the way Batman always wanted him to. And so now, it's here that Batman finally trusts and respects Robin, even more than he already did. Batman then turns to Barbara, and he hands her a box, and he says that Alfred would have wanted her to have it. She opens it up, and she finds the Batgirl suit inside. The trio would then go off to stop Bane and Mr. Freeze the same way that they did in the actual movie. And when Ivy goes to Arkham, she threatens to expose Batman's identity. But then she's confronted by one Mr. Freeze. Whew. And Mr. Freeze is already pissed off at her for almost killing his wife. He's become way too grateful to the Bat family for saving his wife, and he's not going to let Ivy ruin them. He's not going to let Ivy expose them like that. So he threatens her into silence. So the movie would then end with Alfred getting a proper funeral behind the ruins of Wayne Manor. They each take the time to say farewell in their own way, with Bruce symbolically leaving red roses, just like he used to do for his parents. We then cut to several months later, and Wayne Manor is seen fully rebuilt and featuring an expanded Batcave with room for all three of their suits. And the last shot of the movie is all three of them running towards the camera, ready for another adventure. And that is what if the Riddler had been in Batman and Robin. So yes, very controversial decision. I know this movie was very lighthearted and campy, and they wouldn't have killed off Alfred. I'm very well aware they would not have allowed Joel Schumacher to go in that direction. But to me, it makes sense, because I honestly think the Riddler would want every one of them to die, because he wants revenge, because he already felt personally betrayed by Bruce Wayne / Batman for turning down his experiment. And then he sent his empire crumbling. He ruined his plans to become the smartest human being on Earth. And then he sent him to an asylum where people treated him like a lesser human being. And honestly, I think for that, he would do the absolute cruelest thing to Batman that he could possibly think up, which is to kill the man that raised him before Batman can even die himself. That's just honestly what I think the Riddler would do. I honestly think that that is what would make sense. And not to mention, I wanted him to do something truly evil. I wanted him to be a truly detestable character. And I wanted to give him a scene before he kills Alfred that really allows him to show off that terrifying aura he gives off sometimes. Simply put, I just wanted Jim Carrey's Riddler to be scarier. And honestly, I think with a better script and maybe a little bit less improvisation, he honestly could have been a very good and terrifying Batman movie villain. So I honestly think that this would give Jim Carrey a lot more to do. I think this movie could help, in a way, sort of redeem the character a little bit more. And while I'm not necessarily saying I want Alfred to die, because I love Alfred, believe me, I do ultimately think that he was like the only person that was truly great in Batman and Robin. And I think killing him off would honestly be one of the few things I could imagine getting a really good emotional response out of the actors and the audience. It would add a necessary edge to this movie, in my opinion. I mean, there are other ways to make this movie darker. I don't think it should have been this lighthearted to begin with. And I understand completely if you disagree with my decision to kill Alfred. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hate for that. But I mean, picture it. Imagine you're seeing this lighthearted Batman movie, and then they go this serious route. And then you see Batman and Robin having a fight about what it is to be Batman. Can Batman overcome his need for revenge the way Robin, overcame his need for revenge in the last movie? Can he learn from his mistakes of Batman 89, where he wanted to kill the Joker in that movie? I mean, honestly, I just think it's a storyline that could have been really cool, and I think it would have given the whole Batman and Robin not trusting each other's storyline a better conclusion. Would this have made it a better movie? I don't like to give myself that much credit, because if I tell everybody, oh yeah, my ideas are so much better, then people are going to think I'm cocky. And I'm not trying to say my ideas are always better. In fact, most of the time I'd say they're not. But in this case, I would say, yeah, it would make the movie better. I'm willing to actually accept that credit, honestly, because I honestly think this movie needed something to actually make you give a shit. Just to be frank, honestly. I think that Batman and Robin, the actual movie, lacked a lot in emotional stakes. Like, Mr. Freeze is gonna, freeze the entire planet and you still don't give a shit. And I think that's a real problem. And I just think if the villains had gotten to Batman on a more personal level, then maybe they would have left a better impression. That's just my opinion. Because believe me, I know Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mr. Freeze, and Uma Thurman, Poison Ivy have their fans, especially Poison Ivy, believe me. Because I get tons of views on my Poison Ivy videos from people who absolutely loved her interpretation. But I honestly think that a psychological villain could have done this movie wonders. So, yeah, I'm sorry if you guys didn't like this video. I really do understand. And please let me know if you liked it or didn't like it in the comments down below. I'm always open. Please, believe me, if you guys really hated this video, I can take it, really. I would absolutely love to hear your honest opinions. And also, please give me more what if recommendations for future videos, as well as give this video a thumbs up and share with all of your various friends on all your various social media platforms. And I will see all you guys in the next video.